I'm going to go deep with this one just because I feel like the topic requires it. And I heard a quote, a biblical quote from Jordan Peterson. He said that the meek shall inherit the earth is a bad interpretation. It should be that those that are willing and able to carry a sword shall inherit, or those that are willing and able to carry a sword but choose not to use it shall inherit the earth. Meaning that you need to be strong, you need to be basically a very strong, powerful individual, learn how to control it. This topic is really about, separating it from genetic abnormalities, talking about basically cutting off genitals of individuals. This is like a very evil thing. It seems like it's time to whip out the sword and not to cut off genitals, but to maybe be a little bit more aggressive fighting the left. How do you have polite conversations when you think this is such an evil thing? And what do you think is going to be done about it? It seems like this is being raised by women, like women in school board meetings. Cowardly men are doing nothing about this. What do you think that the men in our country can do?
You're looking at me, is this for me specifically?
Yeah, both of you.
Okay, great. Well, I'll start on that. Number one, I appreciate your question, and I do understand the issue of urgency. Back in January, people believed that the election in 2020 was stolen, if we remember this, and they went to go do something about it. And the repercussions from that were not well thought through. I was there, yes. People always like to point out I was in Nancy Pelosi's office. That's true. Yeah, I was. It's true, but it's called a press pass from the Capitol building. That's true. So I was there, and I witnessed firsthand people trying to take action to do something on something they believed. And obviously something so serious as an election is another good example. If you believe something is rigged, if you believe something has been cheated or stolen, I would say that does lead way for an actual revolution. And I know you're being careful with your words, but obviously, no, I'm just saying, okay, so just so I clarify, what you're implying is if we believe they're abusing, mutilating kids, you said with the sword, like, why is there not capital punishment, or are you not taking it that far? Like, why are we not fighting back, like, physically?
What I'm saying is basically this country is filled with cowardly weak men, and that nobody's doing anything about it. This issue is being raised by women in school board meetings. They're doing nothing about this. We're sitting around talking about it. It's the most.
Well, I would say like with Bill like AB 1399 and then 1464, I think, or it's maybe 1646. They keep changing, and then 34 and 39 in Texas. Like with AG Ken Paxton and specifically even with our governor, talking with them, men are coming together, and they are, even though it died in the House, the newest bill is trying to label these surgeries as actual abuse or form a crime where people can be jailed. This is where the contention is, and why people talk about Texas is the idea of should a parent actually be put in prison. And although the bill, I think it was 34, died again in the House, it's being resurrected, which would be penalize and criminalize doctors who perform surgeries. Depending on where you fall in the argument, you could think this is ridiculous or not, but I would say that's a clear-cut example of people who believe that this is a grave mark against humanity, and it is mutilation coming together, specifically men, and I think it's primarily a male legislator, but I might be incorrect, trying to create the legal route to criminalize something that they believe is a crime. Is that national? Is that international? I mean, it changes from country to country, and it could change from state to state, but I do genuinely believe people are doing something, but of course there is blocks in the court, and the only alternative would be violence, and as you saw from January 6th, that violence or physical force without a proper strategy or plan is not a war. It ends up making you a honeypot, you end up being a part of a target, and you end up paying the price for it. And I think so strategy is what's needed here, and I don't believe people are doing nothing, at least in my state. I don't know about this state, but we're doing a lot, and that's why the fight is there and is in Florida.
I really don't appreciate from Christians who advocate for like mutilating little boy dicks via circumcision to talk about like the idea that we're cutting off dicks for trans people, especially when circumcision is completely aesthetically driven. That's just a personal pet peeve of mine. I mean, I think that it's important to look at like what is the fact of the matter for trans people. Moving aside from social fights or religious values, like do we think that trans people are real? If you don't, then I mean I understand your perspective. Like why do we allow these delusions to be pushed by I guess women in school board meetings or whatever? Why don't strong men stand up against it? But I mean if we do acknowledge that there's some underlying fact of the matter, you know, whatever you want to call the surgery or however you want to refer to it, like if people need help, people need help. You know, much the same that a type 1 diabetic might need insulin from birth or you know whenever it develops, you know, a trans person might need some sort of gender affirming surgery.